Are you still breaking out with acne even with your teenage years long behind you? Well, you're not alone, because women even into their 20s, 30s and 40s can still have acne. Today I'm going to be answering all of your acne questions. Last month I had the pleasure of speaking with Afia from Don't Pop That Spot at Happy Place Festival. In this video I'm going to be answering those same questions from the event so that you can be an expert acne insider too. Hi, I'm Melissa, acne nutritionist, naturopath and mindset coach, and after struggling with acne for over a decade, which took me to a really dark place, feeling let down when my acne came back after using Roaccutane for the second time, and to finally clearing it naturally and for good by working with a naturopath, I made it my life's mission to help other women clear their acne too, and give you an alternative that doesn't involve a ton of side effects. Now I've helped over 50 women regain confidence in their skin and clear their acne by addressing deeper root causes inside my Clear Skin Complete program. This is what we're going to be covering in today's video, and these are some of the most commonly asked questions that I get from my clients and from other people with acne. And if these are questions that you find yourself Googling and asking yourself on a day-to-day basis too, then you're going to love my free training, How to Clear Your Acne Naturally in 6 months or Less without prescriptions or extreme dietary restrictions. Inside this free training, you're going to learn the exact step-by-step process to clear your acne naturally from the inside out. I'm going to be taking you from start to finish. I'm talking from skincare all the way through to gut health and hormones, and clearing your acne in the correct order. Not only that, but you'll be learning how you can maintain your clear skin for good as well. Scroll down to the description box below and click the first link where you will be prompted to insert your name and your email address, and then you will gain instant access to this free acne training. Let's dive into the video. The first question that I was asked at this event is this: you work with so many clients who come to you with skin concerns. What are some of the common patterns that you tend to see? There are 3 common patterns that I tend to see with all of my acne, and these are stress, minerals, and gut health imbalances. With stress, this is commonly looked at as high cortisol, or maybe this inability to manage our stress in our lives. Maybe we have stressful jobs, stressful family life, financial stress. There's so many different causes of stress that we have in our life from day to day. And a lot of people think that if you have a stressful life, you're going to have high cortisol, and that is what's driving the acne. I know that may be true for some people, but most people, what I actually see is this picture of tired adrenals, this poor resilience to stress, and this regulated nervous system. Actually, we're not in a state of high cortisol. We're in a state of very depleted stress hormones. We're really running on empty, because whenever we're stressed, the body is also going to be letting go of essential minerals and essential vitamins as well. We may be feeling this low energy, this fatigue, feeling like we can't really get up and go, but we know we're stressed at the same time. Maybe our mind is super busy, but it's not about just trying to remove the things off our plate, though that is incredibly important. It's mostly about getting to the core of that cellular stress, working with your metabolism, balancing your minerals, supporting your mitochondria at that cellular level so that you can really build that stress resilience, alongside using tools of nervous system regulation such as EFT tapping, meditation or somatic movements. Yoga is also really great for this because it's utilizing the breath. And then pairing those together, you now have the tools in place to be able to handle that stress so much better without such negative side effects. It's this inability to handle the stress and this poor resilience to stress that is actually the biggest driver for acne that I see from this stress perspective. And there can be various things happening, but like I mentioned before, when it comes to stress, if we are stressed, we are also going to be releasing so many different minerals, which brings me on to my next point here, which is the minerals and the nutrient depletion is going to be one of the big drivers for acne. Commonly, this is the low sodium and potassium, and again, this is that cellular stress, because without good levels of sodium and potassium, nothing can get in and out of our cells. That can lead to hormonal imbalances, issues with the thyroid, blood sugar issues at a cellular level. It really has a knock-on effect. This can happen not only from stress, but from under-eating, over-exercising, long-term vegan diets, but then the stress from the busy minds and even underlying traumas or even subconscious beliefs from past events that are driving this subconscious stress. It's going to be keeping you stuck in this fight, flight or freeze response, which is just going to be draining your minerals more and more. The other thing that is a problem with minerals is if we're actually not able to absorb the minerals because maybe we don't have the correct amount of stomach acid, or there's something else happening in our gut which is causing the absorption to be impacted, which brings me on to the next point, which is going to be gut health imbalances. And there are 4 different drivers that I see most commonly when it comes to gut health imbalances. And this is going to be starting with low stomach acid, low enzymes, and this poor absorption picture. We're not able to break down our food effectively, meaning we're not able to absorb the nutrients from those foods. Not only that, but those those foods are going to sit in our digestive tract for so much longer, and it's going to cause this fermentation, driving more chances of us having these bacterial overgrowths and gut dysbiosis, which is the second thing most common with gut health imbalances I see, which essentially means that we have more bad bacteria, more pathogenic bacteria, which can drive symptoms. Then we have the good bacteria, the beneficial bacteria, which you will commonly have heard of things like lactobacillus, bifidobacterium. But we don't just want to go in and add in more bacteria without addressing what may be causing the problem in the first place. When it comes to gut health, it's really dependent on you, your unique microbiome, and what your body actually needs. The next thing is going to be inflammation, which can be driven by stress, foods that we eat, lifestyle habits, poor sleep. There's so many different things that can drive inflammation in the gut. Your gut barrier is so connected with your skin barrier. If you have inflammation in the gut lining, it's very likely that we can also have inflammation in the skin. And as we know, acne is one of those inflammatory conditions. And the fourth thing is high base activity. And this is going to be leading some of those hormonal symptoms that you don't even realize are driven by the gut. Because if we have high beta glucuronidase activity, then what that means is some of these hormones like estrogen, it's not able to be processed and eliminated by the body effectively, meaning it's recirculating throughout the bloodstream, giving us these symptoms of estrogen dominant, driven by the gut. But it's not only estrogen, it's also excess toxins. This is really going to be a big driver of inflammation in general, oxidative stress. If you have high beta glucuronidase activity, it's really something you want to get on top of. And you can start out simple with something like cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, sprouts, cabbage, radishes, and broccoli sprouts, which are seeds which have been sprouted, not to be confused with broccoli and Brussels sprouts. So those are fantastic cruciferous vegetables. Moving on to the next question, which is, I've had acne for well over a decade and I'd consider my diet to be pretty good as it's balanced. But for someone like me, what could still be going wrong? This is a question I hear all the time, and it's important to know that a lot of the women that I work with at some point have tried to change their nutrition and their diet. They consider themselves to be eating healthy, they're eating really balanced, they're trying to eat more whole foods. But what's happening is, with some people, maybe it's not as balanced as they think it is, and for other people it's maybe a little bit too restrictive. But the truth is, nutrition is only going to be one piece of the puzzle. So even if you have the absolute perfect diet for you, you can still have acne. It's not just going to be nutrition that is driving your acne, it's also going to be something deeper underlying on the inside of the body. For the sake of this, I really just want to answer what could be some of the missing nutrition pieces when it comes to your diet. The first thing is going to be blood sugar imbalances. A lot of this can come down to your nutrition, even though a lot of the time with blood sugar we're looking at your exercise and your sleep and some other things that can be driving it. But at the basic level, we want to make sure that your nutrition is in a good place to keep your blood sugar balanced. The next thing is, are you eating enough? So many women that I work with are actually eating, and they're adding more stress to their body, again, because the blood sugar is imbalanced and because they're missing out on essential nutrition to give them that energy throughout the day. The next thing is being aware of your meal timings. Sometimes we're waiting 6 hours between a meal, and that is just way too long. Your blood sugar will have dipped around 3 to 4 hours. So if you're waiting that long between meals, you really have to consider adding in a balanced snack between that meal. But on the other side of that, we want to make sure that we're not grazing throughout the entire day, because that's not giving your digestive system a break. We also want to be aware of our female hormones throughout the monthly cycle, so that we know not just the specific foods that we can eat at each phase, because I know that can be jarring and overwhelming, but knowing that in the second half of your cycle, your body just needs more fuel. It needs more food. It needs more of a caloric intake. In the first half of your cycle, your cortisol is lower and your metabolism is slower. This is where a lot of people will feel like this is the time where they feel normal. They're not too hungry. Their appetite is generally quite regular. They are exercising and feeling fine. Their energy is typically stable. But in the second half of the cycle, the cortisol is higher and your metabolism is, meaning you can handle less stress, less vigorous exercise, and your body is in need of at least 200 calories of more food. And from that, we don't just mean eating loads of sugary snacks because you've got those sugar cravings. It's about making sure that you are consistently eating more food, increasing the sizes of your meals, and getting in that extra snack so that you can make sure that your body has the extra fuel that it needs during that time of your cycle. So not skipping meals, eating within 1 hour of waking, eating cruciferous vegetables to really support the beta-glucuronidase, omega-3s from oily fish. Those are just some things to be aware of from a nutrition perspective. If you feel like you're already doing everything and it's not quite working out for you, I would assess those nutrition factors. But there's also other things that you want to be addressing as well. Clearing acne takes a full holistic approach. Nutrition is part of that, but we also want to be looking at your mindset, your lifestyle, and any deeper root causes that may require specific personalized supplementation protocols. So the areas that you would want to be looking at would be your blood sugar, your metabolic health, your nervous system and your stress resilience, your mindset and your limiting beliefs, your detoxification and your drainage pathways, your gut health and if you have any infections, and also your hormones. If things aren't moving back into balance, even when you've addressed deeper root causes, we want to be thinking about what can we do to really support those. Not to forget, you also want to be assessing and addressing your other symptoms, because it's very rare that you will only have acne. For me, I had acne, I had migraines, I had period pains, I had bloating, I had this really strange reflux thing. There's so many different symptoms that come along with acne that you're probably just dealing with because it's not as prevalent for you because you don't see it on your skin every single day. The next question is, a lot of people with acne will have gone down the GP route and been prescribed antibiotics. What are the long-term effects of that on the body? And I work with so many clients who have been on antibiotics even up to 2 years for acne specifically. One thing I need to mention, that I have nothing against medication. I have done all of the antibiotics as well. My goal essentially is to give you the information that you need to make an informed decision and give you an alternative that doesn't necessarily include the side effects. But if you want to use medication or medication has worked for you, by all means, all power to you. But the reality is that long-term use of antibiotics to keep the skin clear is really unsustainable. And to be honest, we do need more studies specifically on the long-term side effects of antibiotics when it comes to acne. But some of the research has hypothesized some of the potential impacts of long-term antibiotic use for acne. There can be an increased risk of antibiotic resistance. But this is not just to the acne-causing bacteria, which is P. acnes, but also to other bacterial species as well. It can also potentially increase the risk of other infections and diseases. Now, this one isn't confirmed and we definitely need more research into this. I don't want this to be something that scares you. It's just not something that we can confirm at this point. But something that we do know is that antibiotics that are used for acne, like limacycline and doxycycline, don't just target the negative bacteria that could be driving acne, but they also target beneficial strains as well, such as lactobacillus bacterium and bifidobacterium. This long-term use of antibiotics for acne can actually lead to gut dysbiosis. And it has been found that people with acne do have higher levels of gut dysbiosis, which is essentially an increase in the bad bacteria and less of those beneficial bacterial strains. The next question is, we keep hearing about gut health being the key to clear skin. Is ensuring a healthy gut as simple as adding kimchi and sauerkraut to your plate? The truth is that maintaining healthy gut health isn't as simple as just adding fermented foods into your diet, especially if you have a symptom like acne, which can be more of a chronic condition. And the reason for that is there's probably something going on in your gut that needs more attention. So the truth is, it's really going to depend on the health of your gut, depending on the support that your body actually needs. And honestly, nutrition is important for the gut health. If we were thinking about gut health for the general person on an everyday basis, there is a lot that we can be doing with nutrition to support and maintain a healthy gut. And these things would be eating a diverse range of fruits and vegetables to make sure that you're getting in a variety of different plant fibers. Because what this is going to be doing is it's going to be feeding the healthy bacteria, it's going to be increasing short-chain fatty acids, which are very protective for the gut, and essentially just building a really diverse microbiome, which is something that we want. The next thing is the cruciferous vegetables to support that beta-glucuronidase enzyme activity. We also want to be supporting our nervous system because the vagus nerve, which runs from the brain down the spinal cord, it's the longest nerve in the body and it is directly connected with our gut. The gut health issues aren't just coming from the foods that we've been eating, but actually it is coming from the fact that our nervous system is so regulated from long-term stress. Doing vagus nerve activation is going to be beneficial to help the health of your gut. The next thing is going to be lifestyle action. How are you actually chewing your food? Because healthy gut health starts literally in your mouth, not just with your oral microbiome, but also with the fact that you are chewing those foods and chewing properly. Eating mindfully is going to be important, because if you're not eating in a relaxed state, you could be eating the perfect meal, you're not going to be able to digest and absorb the nutrients from the foods the way that you are expecting to. And then we also want to think about probiotic foods and prebiotic foods. So probiotics are going to be feeding the bacteria. These are going to be things like onions, stewed apples, the foods that are going to be the food for the bacteria. And then we have probiotic foods, so things like coconut yogurt with live cultures, again the kimchi, the sauerkraut, and in some cases sourdough if it's a good quality sourdough, then this can be adding in those beneficial bacterial strains into the body. If you have something deeper happening in your gut, like a bacterial overgrowth, low stomach acid, if you have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, candida, H. pylori, one of these more significant infections, which can actually be a driver of inflammation and acne in the body, then eating more vegetables might cause more bloating. Chewing is going to be so important, but it's not going to be enough if your body doesn't have the enzymes and the stomach acid to be able to actually digest those foods. You essentially, with this, you're going to want to explore deeper what's happening in the body, because actually if you have an overgrowth and you are eating something like sauerkraut, it's just going to be feeding those pathogenic bacteria and actually making things worse. Yes, in a general sense, if you are an average healthy person and you don't necessarily have significant gut symptoms or even breakouts, which could be classed as a gut symptom as well, then eating kimchi can be beneficial to keep an overall healthy gut microbiome. And that's something that I would do now, is utilizing these fermented foods and these probiotic and prebiotic rich foods to keep my gut health in a really good place. But that is not what I did at the beginning, and it's not what I would suggest that you start with if you have acne. And the order in which you would want to be working on your gut health is going to be starting with rebalancing. This is going to be your nervous system, your digestive enzymes, your mindset, your sleep, to really make sure that your body is balanced and in a healthy position. Those are the foundations. Next, we would deeply optimize your digestion with your stomach acid, your chewing, and your enzymes. After that, if you are someone who has pathogenic bacterial overgrowth or some kind of infection, this is when we would focus on removing those bacteria. Obviously, before this stage, we make sure that your body is prepared for that. You have energy, your detoxification pathways are open, your digestion is regular. Then we would balance the gut microbiome. Make sure to note that we optimize digestion and we remove pathogens before we are rebalancing the microbiome with probiotics and prebiotics and probiotic rich foods. Next, we would support the gut lining, making sure that we are reducing any inflammation that may be there. That can be with foods, and it can also be with supplement interventions if that is necessary for you. And then we would also want to be supporting healthy motility to make sure that the food can move through the digestive tract physically, and it's not just going to get stuck there and ferment. The next question, what would be your absolute must-haves to have on a grocery list to help support acne? These are going to be the top foods that I would suggest for acne, and the first one is going to be coconut water. And I know that so many people say that this is so high in sugar, why would you suggest this? And the reason for that is because the sugars are natural sugars anyway, but coconut water is so high in potassium and other minerals. And if you're someone that doesn't really respond well to coconut water, then yes, of course, you would just choose other potassium-rich foods like broccoli and maybe even mangoes or bananas or tomatoes. In 1 cup of coconut water, you have around 600 milligrams of potassium. You spread that over the day, eat that after a balanced meal, and then go for a walk. The sugars aren't going to impact you too negatively, but you're going to get those benefits of the potassium. And if you have acne, I have seen loads of imbalances tests, and I can tell you that you probably need more potassium. Next is blueberries, which are really high in antioxidants. Then we have lemons, which is high in vitamin C, which is also an antioxidant. It's also great for digestion and detoxification, so I have this every single day. Wild caught salmon for omega-3s, extra virgin olive oil for healthy fats, which help to build the skin and also your healthy hormones. Organic turkey, because it's high in the amino acids tyrosine and tryptophan, which are good if you have symptoms of anxiety. It's also an animal protein, which is going to be good for balancing the blood sugar. Green tea, which is high in EGCG polyphenols. Sea salt, because when you are stressed, you're losing a lot of sodium. Broccoli, as it's a cruciferous vegetable, and it's also high in vitamin C and so many other vitamins and minerals. And finally, Brazil nuts for selenium. The next question is, where do vitamins and minerals come into all of this? I've tried things like zinc and evening primrose oil, but are those actually necessary? And the truth is, whenever it comes to any supplement, you really want to make sure that you are having the correct tests to know what your body actually needs. The last thing we want to do is to guess what supplements our body needs or take the wrong thing at the wrong time. For example, your body may be in need of omega-3. In fact, it probably is if you have acne, because at some level we need to balance the omega-3s with the omega-6 ratio. Our body can't produce omega-3, so we need to get it through food or through supplementation. However, if you start taking a high dose omega-3 before your body is able to digest and properly process those fats, then what can happen is when our body digests fats, those fats are then absorbed through the small intestine into your lymphatic system. The particles of fats are larger than those of other nutrients. Before they get to the bloodstream, they move through the lymphatic system. If you're not able to digest those fats to be absorbed through the small intestine, you're not going to be able to utilize them. If the lymphatic system is sluggish, then what can happen is those fat particles may get stuck, and in some cases may contribute to acne. Now, obviously there isn't necessarily research to support that specifically, but we still want to make sure that we are supporting the digestion of fats before we go in with a high dose of omega-3. So that's just an example of, you could be taking the supplement that your body needs, but if you're taking it at the wrong time, then it can contribute to making your symptoms worse. When it comes to minerals, yes, absolutely, we need to be supporting those. And I think a lot of people will look to zinc because zinc is important for acne, but before we look to zinc, we want to be thinking about your calcium, your magnesium, your sodium, and potassium. What is the balance in which those are? A commonly overlooked mineral for acne is iron, and how your iron is actually processed in the body. And if you have anemia, we don't necessarily just want to be taking iron without assessing how that iron is then being moved around in the body. We always want to look at your hair tissue mineral analysis test alongside a blood test to really get an idea of what is it that your body is actually in need of before we go in and take supplements, because taking supplements without knowing what the body needs can cause more damage. And I think a lot of the times for acne we'll also hear things like you shouldn't take vitamin D, you shouldn't take B12 and a few other supplements, but the truth is if your body needs those things, then at the correct dose, it's not going to make your acne worse. Again, if you are taking the high dose of the wrong supplements, then it can be making symptoms worse. For example, if you're taking zinc for too long at a dose that's quite high, but actually you have a good level of zinc, then what that's going to be doing is it's going to be driving down your copper, and low copper can also drive symptoms. We just want to be careful. So I'm not saying this to confuse you in any way. I'm just saying this to highlight the importance of getting specialist and personalized support when it comes to your minerals and your vitamins and any supplement out there. And also it's not just about taking a supplement, it's also about understanding why your body isn't necessarily able to absorb or utilize that as well. We're not just working on increasing your nutrients, we're working on increasing the absorption and the utilization of what the body needs. For someone in the audience right now who's really struggling with their skin, what are 3 things they can start with in terms of change or things to implement as soon as this week to begin their healing journey? So the first thing that I'm going to suggest for you is to do with your nervous system, and this is going to be with emotional freedom technique tapping. And what I'll do is I will link to a tutorial in the description box below for you to just go through and click on. But what I am going to do is I am going to create a video tutorial for emotional freedom technique tapping specifically for acne, so that you can use that on your acne healing journey to help to regulate the nervous system and learn more about that as a technique, because it transformed my life, my skin, my nervous system, and it helps so many of my clients as well. The next thing is being really aware of the intake of minerals that your body needs, specifically with sodium. For example, the average person wants to have less than 2,000 milligrams of sodium every single day. So what you'd want to be doing is sprinkling a pinch of sea salt onto every meal and into your glasses of water, just to make sure that you are getting the sodium through food. And the same thing with potassium. So the average adult female would need around up to 3,000 milligrams of potassium per day. Now, some sources say slightly less and some people say slightly more. If you have been stressed for a long period of time and your potassium is lower, then you are going to want to have slightly more. Aiming for around 3,000 is going to be a good base. Looking into which foods are high in potassium and making sure that you're eating those every single day. Coconut water, broccoli, tomatoes, mangoes, bananas, those types of foods, root vegetables high in those essential minerals. Getting in your sodium and your potassium every single day is going to be essential. And the third thing is really assessing your blood sugar. I'm someone who is quite big on the data and the numbers. Using something like a continuous blood glucose monitor for 2 to 4 weeks is helpful to help you assess, is your blood sugar spiking more than it should be after your meals? Is it dipping down when it needs to? Or is it staying within the healthy ranges? In which case, that's a positive sign. It's also going to give you information into if you need to have a snack between your meals, or if you need to potentially add in more protein and more fats instead of just complex carbohydrates. Adding in more fiber is also really helpful. Or what you can do is, if you're noticing your blood sugar spiking slightly too high, is going for that walk after your meal if you feel like that is necessary for you. But before giving out advice, I'm someone who is very much into personalization. And what you might find is that you don't necessarily need to be taking shots of apple cider vinegar or going for a walk after every single meal. In fact, blood sugar is about your sleep and your stress and even exercise, but nutrition is good and helpful to help keep it stabilized as well. A glucose monitor such as by the brand Lingo, just using that for ideally 4 weeks, because that's going to help take into account the blood sugar changes throughout the monthly cycle, because when we are on our period, our response to insulin can change. And just using that to get the data, not to feel intimidated, but just to feel empowered in the fact that you have more information about your body and how your body is responding. To recap, we've got EFT for nervous system, checking your sodium and your potassium, and making sure that you're using a glucose monitor to see how your blood sugar is performing at the moment, and then optimizing from there. If you have loved this video, then you are going to love my free training, How to Clear Acne Naturally in 6 months or less without prescriptions or extreme dietary restrictions. This isn't just another masterclass that you're going to sign up for and never watch. It's a complete roadmap for clearing up and maintaining clear skin. If you're serious about clearing your skin so that you're no longer staying awake until 1 a.m, 2 a.m, 3 a.m, just Googling looking for solutions to be able to clear your acne once and for all, then scroll down to the description box below and click that first link where you're going to be prompted to insert your name and your email address, where you'll be able to gain instant access to this free acne training. Remember, there is a method that is proven and backed by science, so that you don't need to feel like the only way to clear your acne is through medication, consistent facials that you don't want to buy. You don't need to rely on band-aid approaches or focus on just trying to avoid your skin getting worse, trying to make sure that you are feeling like you're constantly trying to stay on top of your skin. Clear skin is entirely possible for you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.